Welcome to the Kentucky Atheist.
Ain't no motherfucker in this world could do it like me. Open up your eyes and insert a little rising. You don't have to love me, you don't have to like me. Got enough love in myself, in my psyche. You should have the same in your brain nightly. If you wanna taste it, you can fucking try me. If you wanna hate it, you know where to find me. And if you're going atheist, you can fucking bite me. I'll be cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, ha, nah, unlikely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running shit right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane.
Hey guys, what's happening? I am here all on my own again today. I may open this up and let some people join if they want and talk about some other stuff or whatever. Hey Robin, hey Randy, hi PC. Thanks for putting all that stuff in the chat, PC. What I have today for you guys is something I found interesting, and I think maybe you will too. Those of you that are familiar with the channel know that I do a political show with Miss Robin. And hi Liz, nice to see you. And that I also do a lot of stuff on religion, specifically Christianity and creationism. I tried to combine both of those. That didn't work. Today, what we're going to look at is kind of explains why, as an atheist channel, we get into these political issues, and it's going to kind of bring it all together a little bit in one little small Pew Research study. Before we go down that road, though, if you're here and you're not subscribed, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I want to give a shout out and a thanks to all of my channel members. You guys, I had been lacking on putting this thing at the bottom of the screen to show all my channel members, and I've got that back going. And also my Patreon supporters who are there. So thanks to everybody that supports the channel and helps out that way. And but if you want to help out, just like and subscribe. That really helps me. Let me get rid of this banner for the moment, and we'll bring it back in a little bit. So there is a study done by Pew Research titled "White Protestants and Catholics Support Trump, but Voters in Other U.S. Religious Groups Prefer Harris." Now, this is truly about the differences. The study is actually the differences between race. I'm going to read through some of it in a minute. I want to give some people time to show up or whatever. But I'm going to actually read into the study here in a few minutes, and I'm going to show it on screen. And I've got some of the charts and stuff blown up so you can see them better. But this actually, it's really interesting data. And Pew Research, you know, just always has great stuff. They're always, and they give you, like, you can even go look at the surveys and who they asked and the samples and all that stuff. So it's really, really well done research. And I love it. But I guess let's just jump right into it. This is the actual study on their website. There is a link in the description for this. Actually, I think I can post it here too. PC already has, but right there's the link for this actual study if you want to go look at it, follow along or whatever. I'm going to read parts of it, but it's whenever we get to the graphs and stuff that I really want to get into it. Hey, Native Atheist. Hey, Zach. Hey, Logan. Thanks for coming, everybody. Glad to have you. I want to look at some of this stuff. I mean, the data really just has a lot of implications, and I thought it was something that I could discuss. I'm going to go through it. I've got the charts separately. If anybody wants to join and talk about this stuff, you're welcome to. Just let me know. I'll drop a link. I try not to just put a pinned link on public streams. I do that in my members only streams that I do every week, but I don't do it on these because I get a lot of problems. But I will drop one in the chat, like if somebody wants it. You just gotta let me know. You may have to tag me. I don't know. I can see it for now, though. There's not that many people here. All right. So the intro to this is, first of all, the most important part in this intro is that this Pew Research study was conducted between the dates of October, or start over. This survey was conducted between the dates of August 26th and September 2nd, 2024. So this is recent data. It's good recent numbers. And it says that it finds that majorities of registered voters in 3 key religious groups say they would vote for Trump or lean towards doing so if the election were today. While I'm reading this next part here, the numbers, I'll put the chart on screen for you so you can see it better. And what this says is it says 82% of white evangelical Protestants support Trump, 61% of white Catholics, 58% of white non-evangelical Protestants. White non-evangelical Protestants, I guess, would be like Methodists and Presbyterians, things like that. Harris currently has the backing of roughly 2/3 or more of registered voters in various other religious groups. 86% of Black Protestants, 85% of atheists, 78% agnostics, 65% of Hispanic Catholics, and 65% of Jewish voters. And we know that's for a reason, right? I mean, Trump and the right have been incredibly racist in their rhetoric and their policy, well, lack of policies, in their threats and in their culture war issues and all that. They've been incredibly racist and xenophobic. So what's really interesting about this is what I do as an atheist, the crossover, right? The atheist activism and the political crossover here, because 82% of white evangelical Protestants. So no matter the fact that everything about Trump goes against the values, air quotes, that Christianity is supposed to support. I mean, you have 16% of white evangelicals support Harris. That is horrible. And it says a lot about the state of religion in the United States. 82%. Wow. Non-evangelicals, 58-41. Black Protestants, Trump only carries 11 because, you know, as we know, he's like incredibly racist. So, and we've covered that here. There's videos and stuff to support that. As we go down through there, though, looking at the numbers, you know, I would get that up here at the top of the study, it says that U.S. religious groups that have traditionally leaned Republican are backing former President Donald Trump by wide margins. So the folks that talked about morality all the time and that try to play off this moral high ground. So Robin, about Judaism, it says down at the bottom in the small print, it says based on registered voters, white and black voters include those who report being only one race and are not Hispanic. Hispanic voters are of any race. Those who did not answer do not lean towards either. Well, it tells in another part where it says that it was a small percentage, so they didn't include it in this, that in the sample. So that's yeah, Judaism, I guess, is I don't know. Oh, yeah, 65% of Jewish voters right here. 65% of Jewish voters support Harris, 34% support Trump. It's the evangelicals, because in the United States, they carry the most numbers and the most power. And that's why we see, I think that I've made the comparison before that in the current political climate that they behave a lot like theists in the things they say and how they just say unsupported things, and they just expect people to believe stuff, and no matter what the truth actually is, they just put it out there. And it's very similar to apologetics, right? And so it's not surprising, but you know, I guess, I don't know, it's a little funny just how the numbers later. Hey Issa, if you want to join Issa, you can. But what I aim to do here is go through the data, and then we can talk about what it means and stuff. I don't want to get too far into what I think about it yet. Anyway, we've got 86% of Black Protestants support Harris, 85% of atheists, 78 agnostics, 65 Hispanic, and 65% Jewish. White evangelicals, white Catholics, white non-evangelicals support Trump. It's split among race pretty heavily. Let me take down this chart. There's more charts coming. I've got two more. I've got a really good chart at the end of this because it tells why they did it. It says the survey includes responses from Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, people from any other religions backgrounds. However, it does not include enough respondents from these smaller religious groups to be able to report on them separately. So that's why they kind of lumped it all together like this. Harris has improved on Biden's performance with some religious groups. The new survey marks the first time that the center has asked about voters' preferences between Trump and Harris without asking about any third-party candidates. Since President Joe Biden withdrew as the Democratic nominee and independent Robert F. Kennedy suspended his campaign, Harris currently garners more support from Black Protestants and Hispanic Catholics than Biden did in April, when 77% of Black Protestants and 49% of Hispanic Catholics back him. Otherwise, the religious dynamics of the U.S. presidential campaign look about as they did in the spring. So we get into a second chart, and this one has more implications. Let me pull this one up. The chart says support for Trump is higher among white evangelicals and white Catholics who attend church regularly. Among white evangelicals, support for Trump is higher among those who attend church regularly, that is at least once or twice a month, than among those who don't. Support for Trump is also marginally higher among white Catholics who attend Mass at least monthly than white Catholics who attend Mass less often. By contrast, among white Protestants who are not evangelical, support for Trump is somewhat lower among regular churchgoers than among those who don't attend church regularly. Again, on the small print, it says the same thing as it did before. And what we're looking at here, among all Christians, Harris or Trump, if they attend church monthly or more, 63% lean towards Trump. If they attend church less or never, 55%. He's still carrying the margin. But white evangelicals, which was our big group from before, among those who attend church monthly or more, 85% support Trump. Those less or never, 78%. Why is there a difference in those numbers? Think about it for a minute. Among white non-evangelical Protestants who attend church monthly or more, 52 to 46, and less or never, 60 to 39. Then whenever we go into Black Protestants, those who go to church more often support Trump less. It's the opposite in this exact one. But 86% of both of those groups support Harris. So it doesn't seem to be influenced by religion in that case. It's the race thing, right? Among white Catholics, 65% to 34 and 58 to 41 under the same metrics. So hold on, let me get back to the chat here. I have to take down the chat to do that. So let's see. I'm reading the chat. Hey Jimmy. Hey Al. Hey, Dave. Welcome, everybody. I had to go back and look at the chat and see what you guys said real quick here. What are we doing here when you're ready for the link? Wouldn't mind joining after I said, yeah. Cool. So again, this is just, I'm just giving you the data right now. We'll talk more about the implications in a minute. Let me take down, okay, it's gone. All right. I've got one more chart coming up in a second. This isn't a big, long study. It's short. All right. It says, by contrast, among white Protestants who are not evangelical, support for Trump is somewhat lower among regular churchgoers than among those who don't attend church regularly. There are no such differences in support for Harris among black Protestants. 86% of both regular churchgoers and those who don't support her. 86%. Curious, isn't it? All right. How U.S. religious groups view key issues in the election. Now, this is what really interested me about this particular Pew Research study. And there's a chart coming up. Well, I tell you what, I'll go ahead and put the chart up because you can't read the writing on the thing anyway. So I'll go ahead and put the chart up, and I'll read you a little bit of what it says here. It says, we also asked respondents how important of a variety of issues will be to their vote in the presidential election. Certain issues are highly important to voters regardless of religious groups. For instance, at least 6 in 10 registered voters in every religious group say the economy will be very important in their voting decision. Half or more in almost every religious group say the same about healthcare, Supreme Court appointments, and foreign policy. Those are normal things, right? Those are actual issues that people generally care about. White evangelicals, let's see what they say, right? White evangelical Protestant voters stand out for the high level of importance they attach to immigration. Roughly 8 in 10 white evangelicals say immigration will be very important in their voting decision. That's 79%, higher than any other group. A large majority of white Catholics, 72%, also say immigration will be a key factor in their decision. Abortion, in turn, is rated very important by more atheists, a group of that mostly supports legal abortion, than by people of other religious identities. Roughly 3/4 of atheists, 77%, say abortion will be very important in deciding who to vote for. Around 6 in 10 agnostics, 62%, Jewish voters, 59%, black Protestants, 57%, also say abortion will be very important deciding how they vote this fall. Fewer Catholics at 44% and white Protestants at 48%, evangelicals 43%, or 48 of evangelicals, 43 of non, say the same. So immigration's the big issue for those same groups that overwhelmingly support Trump. These differences across religious groups reflect broader partisan patterns. White evangelicals and white Catholics mostly identify with or lean towards the Republican Party and support Trump in the current election. And the new survey shows that more Republican voters than Democratic voters say immigration will be very important in their choice this fall. On the other hand, most atheist, agnostics, black Protestants, Jewish voters identify with or lean towards the Democratic Party and support Harris in the current campaign. The new survey shows that abortion is the key issue for Democratic voters than Republican voters. All right, now to the chart. So let me flip back over here. I got to keep going back and forth so I can see what's going on in chat at the same time. Concepts of healthcare for 9 years. I mean, ready as a Kentucky atheist. Yep. Gotcha. Let me do this real quick, guys. Bear with me. Sorry for this. Trying to do it all at the same time is sometimes complicated for me. All right. So this is the chart that I really liked about this whole thing, because it breaks down among these groups how many answered that these things were the most important issues. What's up, Zach?
Yeah, anytime. Hello, everyone. How you doing? I'll let you carry on. You say what you said.
Okay, so I need to increase. All right, there we go. This chart shows the groups that we were looking at most were white evangelicals, and 90% of those that are registered voters say it's very important in the economy. But the thing I want you to gain from this chart though is look at how the numbers flip flop between these two groups. The your Protestant white evangelicals, white non-evangelicals, the numbers between them and everybody else, it's like opposite. Like everything is flip flopped and backwards, and I just find that really interesting.
I find it interesting they care about the economy at all, to be honest. A lot of these things, I find, like, if you think that the world is pointless and evil, why do you care about any of these things? You're kind of waiting for it to end anyway.
Well, that's kind of the point.
Sorry, go on.
That's kind of the point I was going to make.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's these people who, first of all, talk about having the higher ground and morality and all this stuff, first of all, and then think that it doesn't matter anyway because, whatever. Support the less religious of the two people, and some have called him a messiah.
It's like why do they care about climate? Why? Of course they don't care about climate change. They think God's going to fix everything because we couldn't affect it because it's God's plan. And God is making sure that everything's okay. So why do we care about climate change? The only thing you should care about is abortion, because abortion, even though the Bible says it's okay in certain instances, what you have to care about is getting more people in pews. Because if you don't abort your baby and then you bring it into a situation where it's not loved or wanted, well, then it's more likely to be a Catholic or a Christian in the future because, they're going to be sad and depressed. And then they can come to him and go, hey, you're sad and depressed. Have you tried Jesus?
Jesus.
Yeah, it's an old Colin thing, isn't it? They're all against abortion because they're all for caring for the unborn. But once you're born, you're on your own. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I think that's hilarious though, because whenever they do make a big deal about abortion, that's the thing is they only give a shit about the fetus. Once the baby's born, they don't give a damn.
Yeah, no school lunch, no daycare, nothing. You've got to wear hand-me-downs. Well, you can use that as a strength builder to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and become a better person because you've really felt the true sting of being poor, and you can elevate yourself up. I mean, have you seen Beverly Hillbillies? You could be a clampet. All you have to do is go shoot the ground outside, and eventually you'll find black gold too.
I live the Beverly Hillbillies. Okay.
Yeah.
We just haven't made it to LA yet.
Well, just shoot the ground indiscriminately and you will eventually make it. That's what the TV told me.
Yeah, right. No doubt. Hey, Spooky, thanks for coming. If I haven't said hi to somebody out there, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up with the chat and do this. I suck at it, I know. I was almost late getting going today because I had to break down my telescope. I used my telescope tripod for my camera.
Yeah.
And I had my telescope set up last night to look at Saturn. Saturn is in a real good place to see it and its rings. You can even see it with binoculars. But I had to break everything down and almost didn't get the show started on time. What's up, Al?
Yeah, all right, Ty.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
What up?
Hey, Joe. Hey, Zach. Hey, everybody in the chat.
I'm glad you joined, Al.
Yeah,
I'm glad I did too. I missed a lot of the details of the research study, but I'm here to talk anyway. Tell me what we need to talk about. I have an opinion. I can form an opinion about. I can have an uninformed opinion about absolutely anything.
So
let's go.
So I'll tell you what the study is first, because the study doesn't necessarily match what we get into. The study was why evangelicals and non-evangelicals support Trump, whereas most other religious groups support Harris. But with white evangelicals making up a larger number of the electorate, it's that's important. 82% of them of white evangelicals support Trump. And we were just kind of talking about how crazy it is that they do that, and how it doesn't match the doctrine and dogma that the church spouts, you know.
Well, yeah,
I've got a perspective on that immediately.
Yeah,
their leadership loves and finds symbiotic and absolutely just, they have a passionate love affair with the hypocrisy of Trump. It fits perfectly with their behavior.
Yes.
Evangelical preachers are well known for being some of the most hypocritical assholes that have ever walked the face of the earth. And they do so with like this sort of smug idea that they will still get through the gates of heaven because they got it right, everyone else has got it wrong. And Trump is doing everything wrong and telling everybody that it's somebody else's fault.
I think that's correct if we can assume that most of them are believers.
That's true too. I
don't think, like, especially when it comes to these priestly types, I don't think they're believers. I think they're grifters for the most part. So it's a whole right-wing grift, because religion tells you how to live, it tells you how to eat, it tells you when to love, it tells you when to fuck, it tells you how to speak, it tells you how to do everything, right? So when you've got a bunch of rich people that after the 1920s have lost hold of all their power because the Americans went, the robber barons are a bunch of shit and monopolies are bad, well, then you can degrade society through using right-wing Christianity as your bulwark because, well, you know, America and God we trust. It's all, you know, you got to fight against the communists because they're all evil heathens. Everybody's an evil atheist, all that. It's really easy to control people through religion. So if you can get shills in there to go, hey, God likes Trump, by the way. It doesn't matter anything he does. God likes Trump, right? People believe that because when you've got an entire group of people that have cultivated a fan base full of conspiracy theorists and like people that like to construct their own world, basically, false facts and all that shit, flooding the rivers of info with shit. That's what they said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So when you've got people that do that, if you've got everyone lying, you can mold the whole world because they're only listening to you because the guy in the pulpit says so. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, where the study ends up going is that it talks about how these groups that overwhelmingly support Trump, also the key issue for them is immigration, which is the only thing Trump ever talks about. But it's clearly like, if you really cared about immigration, you would be a Harris supporter, right? Because Trump turned down the most conservative immigration bill that we've ever had. So Trump obviously doesn't want immigration to be fixed. He wants chaos to run on. He doesn't really care about the immigration. He cares about using it to his own leverage, right?
That's definitely more correct. Well, she said that in the debate very specifically, didn't she?
Yeah.
You know, you cut that bill because you wanted it to happen on your watch, right?
You're right.
Because it's not even, that's the thing, it's not even immigration. That's the thing. It's not even actual immigration, is it? It's just brown people and not Christians. Because
that's kind of
Christian soldiers. We need to make this a white nationalist Christian country as it always meant to be. Zig Heil and all that.
I think that's kind of why Pew made this study to begin with, right?
Yeah.
We start talking about the difference between white and black evangelicals, white and black church goers, and then we end up talking about how the more that they're in church being fed this indoctrination, the more that they follow Trump. And I agree with you completely, though. It has nothing to do with immigration, and Trump doesn't care about it either way. It's all to do with how it will benefit him in the election.
Well, because he said in his like autobiography book type thing in the 90s, didn't he? If I was ever going to run for president, I would do Republicans because Republicans are really easy to control, right? He knew this from the start. It's one of the reasons I have my little conspiracy theory that Trump never actually wanted to get elected, and his whole thing was to get Hillary elected, and then that failed, so he's run with it. Watch him accept being president, not Jan 20th when he first got elected in 2016, when he's on election night and he's in his thing and he has to come down the stairs and he's so unhappy to have won the presidential election. It's unbelievable.
Well, I think he was unhappy because he didn't win the vote.
Nah,
because
I think
he's still accused. He said that it was millions of illegal immigrants. 3
no, I
million
know, but
illegal immigrants voted.
yeah,
Is
but
why
his
Hillary won
whole
the
thing
popular
was to
vote.
be. I totally think his whole thing was just to be so bad that Hillary would automatically win. I mean, he paid for her to be senator for 8 years.
I can
He
see
ran
him
with her lies about Obama. He made them popular. Everyone forgets that they're her lies. That whole thing about Obama not being American is a Hillary Clinton lie, not a Donald Trump lie. She started that during, and like he ran off everything she did, and went, I do all the bad things that you shouldn't do, and then still won. And then he went, oh, well, I guess I'll take this as far as humanly possible, because Putin, Xi Jinping, and fucking Kim Jong-un, and people in fucking Saudi Arabia, while we all touch our little globe together, are going to tell me exactly how to run the world so we can all run it together. And then we don't need to be at arms with each other, because we'll all be totalitarians together as one big happy family.
Yeah. Well, I think that I did a political show with Robin here a while. Well, actually, Maya was the guest on that one. And we went and we talked about Trump's history of racism going back to the 80s.
Yeah.
And how he had court cases and wouldn't allow black people in his apartments, and made comments about he wants Jewish people. Well, he made anti-Semitic comments about accountants and things like that, and who he wanted as accountants, and just a number. He has racist things, like there was like 30 of them we went through before he ever became president. And so I think then whenever you look at immigration and why, Trump 2016 was also, I'm going to build a wall. That was the big thing. That's what everybody remembers. I'm going to build a wall. And it's always been about racism. And Robin said it there. We've talked about this though, is it goes back to he hates the same people they do. So
he doesn't though. That's the thing. He doesn't hate the same people they do. Right? He doesn't hate brown people and he doesn't hate Muslims. What he hates is the poors, right? He hates poor people.
Oh, right.
So, and poor people don't, well, I mean, the poor people can be convinced to hate poor people, but he's using the idea of, oh, that brown person's coming over and these people are coming over from Mexico. He doesn't mean brown Mexicans. He means poor Mexicans. Poor Mexicans are coming over and we can't have poor people here. This is a rich country where billionaires live. So, it's more about being poor, and then everything else is just to demean them for being poor. Well, I don't think he's actually racist. I think he'll do business with any colored man, any fucking Asian, African, South American, Mexican person, as long as they have enough fucking money.
See, I think he's actually racist, but I think that the amount of money you have can determine where he lumps you in. So if you're of a different race and you're rich, then he to him, that trumps that. I agree with you on that. But if you can be a white person, and if you're poor, he'll lump you in with the brown people, right?
I don't know. Maybe it's a British rich thing, but every time I hear British rich people talk, they don't talk about race, and race doesn't matter, right? Race matters to poor people because it's a dividing subject. To rich people, they're all brothers. They're all in the same club. So you discriminate against people for the lack of wealth. Not for the color of their skin. So when Rishi Sunak, our ex-prime minister, who's like nearly a billionaire, when he talks to Trump doesn't look down on him for being, a Hindu, and his family coming from India or whatever. They look down on him because he's not quite rich enough. And then that insult is the brown on top of it. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah, I think that Trump, if you look at what he does, I think there's absolutely some truth to that, because most of the poor people are minorities, and people coming across the border and all that. So I do agree with you. I think that while that's what's most, I think I agree with you with that's what's most important to Trump. But I also agree that by using the dog whistle part of it and saying it's immigrants, he can then get the other people who have hatred toward, we don't take kindly to your kind around here.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
He that's how he gets those people in with him. What do you think, Al?
Well, one thing that I remark on often is that the racial divides in different areas, and Zach brought this up too, and amongst different classes of people tend to change. And in Canada, I hear very few people worried about anyone from Latin America, and very few people complain about people from like other people who are Canadian multi-generationally, no matter what their skin color is, doesn't seem to worry people too much. There's the two types of racism that I see most often are they're not even so much about race. There's one that's very anti-indigenous people,
Right.
and that one seems to be hung up on, and I see, and this one's across the board. I don't see it. In fact, I see more fair-skinned people on the side of indigenous people than I do other communities who don't understand, or like they wonder why there's special areas carved out for them to live, in special parts of people who are and I'm sorry if I said a wrong term, Robin. I don't know if I
No, that was me.
Okay.
I was trying to say it more like not just black people, as in like all the other races, and then as soon as
like
I said it, I went, I need to be
whatever
more specific.
color of skin you may have. Yeah,
Yeah, that's more what I meant.
There's I think maybe it's considered a derogatory term.
No, it totally is. I didn't think about it until after I said it.
Yeah, I know in the US, like, and this is a thing that I find hard to understand, because I don't see people having trouble day to day in Canada getting along, like a fair-skinned person like myself and a person who would be called black, like someone who's an African heritage Canadian person. I think they're called African Americans in the US. And I think in the US they call them African Americans even if they were born and raised in Africa, because I think they're so used to saying that.
It's one of the things that makes it a bit awkward. Sorry, it's one of the things that makes it a bit awkward for me talking about it over here, because I'm not in America anymore. So they want to say blacks, I'm like African American. Oh wait, they're all British. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, British African, like, and like the colonialism that's gone in the past muddies the waters. But in Canada, there's
right.
and people here will say, and this is something that gets into the territory of like offensive terms. And there are many immigrants from Southeast Asia here. People seem really upset with them coming, even though they come here bringing money, skills, education, and building businesses and offering jobs to other people, paying taxes and being part of the system. There are some of them who do some things that are terrible, but that's true of people from any race. Stereotyping them and saying they're all like this or they're all like that is super unfortunate, but it also breeds this sort of like it's us against them, and it's this othering of people just because they are from a different community. And then the other thing that people don't understand, and is a common phrase, but people are upset about this in our politics because one of our political leaders is someone from Southeast Asia culturally. I believe they were born and raised here, as far as I remember. I'd have to look that up and double check. But we have a political leader of one of the big three parties that we have is of an Indian heritage, so it's from India, from Southeast Asia. That is something that some people can't deal with. But we have huge populations of people that will vote for him just because they're the same culture. And then there's people that'll never vote for him because they're the same country but a different culture, like because there's so many different subgroups. And people tend to not be aware of that when they look at people from Southeast Asia, they're like, they're all this, and they'll say derogatory things about them. And we even have this thing where people talk about indigenous people with the term Indian, which I don't use for them as a white person, but they use for themselves. And then people are differentiating themselves, saying like there's two types of Indian, one's from India, and then the ones who are indigenous people. And I actually see people like making derogatory terms about and building fear and hate against those people. And it's interesting to me that it's the exact same thing happening. It's just pointing at someone who looks different, acts different, has a different culture, and saying that's where your problem is. When the problem is actually it's the rich assholes trying to pull all the strings. And as long as they're making people upset that people of indigenous heritage are getting some extra benefits from the government because the government literally took them, their parents, their grandparents, or whatever, away from their families, destroyed their culture, and took them away from their homes, took land away from them in the past, but also took them away from good homes they had, and parents and grandparents and communities they had. And then either they get some sort of restitution from the government for those specific acts against them and their families, or generally speaking, like there are certain benefits you can have in this country if you are indigenous and have proof of certain things. People get upset about that because they don't have it because they're from some other place, culturally speaking.
Yeah.
That's an argument I guess you could have, but they're trying to level the playing field for people that have had such a terrible start. And it's every time someone tries to level the playing field, people feel like it's oppression against them. This happens over and over again. People don't realize this is happening. And then when they complain about these other groups of people, and Southeast Asians are chief among them, but there's other ones that they'll point at them, and just like in the States, you hear people, basically anybody who lives south of the Rio Grande is a Mexican, even though they're from all sorts of other countries, trying to build up a world where we're all like, if you wake up in the morning and put your pants and boots on and go to work, the color of your skin, the type of food you prefer because of your culture, the type of God you worship or don't worship or whatever, the language you speak, the culture you grew up in, because of geographic separation, so that we learn different languages. And I think you'll notice that despite the fact that Joe, Zach, and I all speak English, quote unquote, none of us sound the same because we're in 3 different geographic regions. Even though I think we probably trace our roots back to very similar places where we spoke a version of English that none of us probably understand today.
Well, yeah,
right.
And
I'm originally American anyway, but yeah.
Are you originally American? Okay.
Yeah, I'm from Maine.
You're from Maine, but you speak with like a slight
yeah, because I got beat up a lot for sounding American, so I adopted the accent.
You sounded too American, yeah.
Yeah, so people go, "Oh, he's American," and they go, "Bop, bop, bop."
So you figured out how to like blend in a little bit more.
Yeah, I was young, so it happened like.
So
let's see.
So that adds another layer.
Yeah,
but I want to go back. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You were saying about how they see it as competition from immigrants, and living in America and living in Britain, 2 very, very different stories, right? So from what I see anyway, so like in America, you've got this feeling of the American dream. You could do anything. It doesn't matter. You just work really hard and you could become one of the rich people too, right? And then, so when the immigrants come in, it's competition for that same slice of the pie because you're both trying to fulfill that American dream. But you feel like you should have that piece of the American dream pie first because you were born there. The other ones came there. Whereas in Britain, the immigration thing's different, right? They want the immigrants. They just want to hate them at the same time, you see. And because it's so much more about class in Britain. You're born in a certain, if you're born in the north, you're meant to be poor. If you're born in the south, you're meant to be middle class or above, and that's just the way it is. And if you're on either sides of that, everybody else thinks you're weird. And that comes with foreigners as well. So anytime, they treat everyone over here so horrifically bad in just every respect, right? And then they go, the foreigners are the problem, right? Because we as the government are trying to give you this NHS and we're trying to give you all this stuff, but the foreigners are just coming over and they're just taking everything. You see that foreigner over there? They've come over here to take your jobs and to take your dole money, to take your unemployment benefits and your housing benefits and these benefits and those benefits, because you as a poor person are allowed to have a nut and they're trying to squeeze in on the little bit of amount that you can have, and that's not good enough for them. And it's 2 very different stories of racism. Like in America, you get the people, they chant down the street with the tiki torches, and they're in the homes and they're like, I'm not going to let black people in here, and you best not date that Asian or whatever, right? Whereas in Britain, racism is just on everybody's fucking mouth all the time, and it's very expectant. So like if over here, they can make fun of Germans because they lost World War II with impunity, basically. You can make fun of the French for being, snail-eating frogs and stuff like that. Yanks, as they call us Americans, we're all fat, lazy, and stupid. And you can't fight against any of those stereotypes because, well, it's just common knowledge. You're American, you should know. You know, like in Family Guy, there's an episode where they're making fun of Dumbo, and it's got the 3 black crows, and it's good old family racism. Well, that's what it's like in Britain. You're expected to be allowed to have this level of racism. You could make fun of Chinese people for having the little slitty eyes, and you could make fun of the Americans for being dumb, and you can make fun of the French for being pretentious, and you can make fun of the Germans for being fascists. And there's very blatant ones that you're allowed to get away with, and the other ones, well, those are a step too far. But this general pool of racism is just fine.
Yeah. No, I agree. I want to go back to what Robin said in the chat a little bit ago. Trump said that we should let migrants come from Denmark and Sweden, places like that. Not shit okay. He said, hey, he didn't say they had to be rich. He just meant they had to be white. Well, I don't think it's either or. I think it's both of those things. I think that also the people that come from those countries, I would say that the statistics reflect that they come with more money. But I think it's both of those things, Rob. It's not just that he cares about money and rich people and power and all that. He is racist. There's no doubt about that. But it's both those things, and I think that's what we were trying to highlight.
It's easier to say racist things to make fun of the poor,
right?
Because
right.
The poor can make fun of other races, whereas when you make fun of poor people, they go, "Hey, I'm poor."
I think the money has to do with one of the reasons of why Trump is racist. That's maybe a better way.
Oh yeah, it's definitely what I think.
Yeah. It's not that he's not doing it for racist reasons. It's just one of the reasons he's a racist. So classism,
But that's what So let's bring it back to that poll thing. This is why I think all these evangelicals and Protestants and stuff agree with him so much, because that's the world they actually want. That's the world the Bible tells them they should have. You know what I mean? Well, it should all be us like-minded thinkers, and we should stone the unbeliever and burn the witch. And, we already have these rules set out. Why are we making human rules? Doesn't Jesus say those that love the earth have enmity with me? So we should do everything that's in that. And as long as that happens, that means we can get rid of that person and that person and that person and that person. And, we have to care about abortion, but climate change doesn't matter. And, the economy only kind of matters, even though nobody understands it and just pretends to. Well, you know what I mean?
I'm going to use this to kind of pivot into something else that I've kind of had an ongoing thing with, is talking about the state of apologetics. Yeah. And I think that, and this is, I'm extrapolating this. It doesn't say this. One of the things that we see, especially on YouTube with apologetics, is they want to talk about morality, and they want to talk about the greater good and all these things. Well, unfortunately, what we see though with that apologetics and the arguments they make don't actually reflect the beliefs held by the Christians that practice the religion. That's not why they believe. That's not what they believe, and it's not how they practice it. No. What we actually see is they have no problem cozying up to an authoritarian that is a racist, is guilty of adultery and theft and fraud and sexual assault, and is one of the most just indefensible people on earth. And they don't care a bit. They will support. 82% of them have no problem with that. So to come and then make the argument that Christians are Christians because of morality and all this stuff just doesn't really follow.
Well, that's what I was trying to say before about how, they want to cozy, because it's not just that he's a fascist; it's that he creates his own worldview, and there's false. What's it? What's the stupid fact word? The alternate facts and the flooding. Was it the guy that's in prison that used to do his media stuff? Was it Bannon saying we need to flood the rivers of info with shit? Right? Because if you can lie about reality to such an extent, people can lie about reality about themselves. And that's kind of the whole point, is they're just creating their own world.
That's absolutely the point, right?
Yeah, because that fucking man for 4 years had Vince McMahon's fucking estranged wife, Linda McMahon, working as the head of small business, telling him how to run the country as kayfabe. Yeah. WWE, Trump universe. And like these people love this shit, man, because when people like us go, hey, you're a stupid piece of shit for believing this, this, and this, and here's this reason and this reason and this reason, which means this, this, and this, and expands to 20 other different things, right? They can just go, well, my alternative facts say you're a piece of shit and I don't have to listen to it, so whatever, right? And that's really what they like. And even when you look, you're talking about like we go to YouTube apologists or whatever, like it was one of the things that we wanted to go to. So many of these people are under the pay of fucking these right-leaning people to fucking begin with, and then they go, well, actually, you know, you young people that think us people on the YouTubes are all hit and trendy. Well, what you should do is be a trad wife and treat your woman like shit, and you know, worship the man and do this and this right-wing thing and that right-wing thing and this right-wing thing. Have you seen how nice my studio is and how clean cut I look and all that stuff? And by the way, your priest was even talking about me in church. You even said maybe you should go listen to Mike Winger, or maybe you should go listen to Alan Parr or Ben Shapiro or fucking, you know, I couldn't think of literally any of the other names, like Dave Rubin or fucking whatever YouTube fucking right-wing idiot that's spouting shit that they agree with this time. Hey, by the way, you young man, you seem to be awful depressed. Have you heard of Jordan Peterson? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the churches are just funneling these people into it because, well, they finally have an inroad to getting to children in the first time they've had in years because, you know, making shitty cartoons wasn't working for them. So now they just decided, let's just go all out and be a dick. And everybody goes, yeah, I'm sick of people telling me that we have to be nice to people. I don't want to be nice to people. I want to be an asshole.
Yeah. Hi, Maya. Hi, Pinworm, Dave, Toto. Anybody else that dropped in there? Hey, thanks for coming. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, and that's also why we see some of these more fundamentalist religious movements like Ken Ham and AIG moving into homeschooling, because it's a way to get to the children and to go ahead and indoctrinate them with the ideas that lay the groundwork for these other things. Because again, as apologists like to point out, it's about the foundation, right?
Yeah.
It's what is it all grounded in?
But that homeschooling stuff also goes hand in hand with the continual right-wing destruction of education systems in every Western country. Because people don't want to vote right-wing when they have a fucking brain in their head. Because they go, actually, maybe I should be a more empathetic and be a nicer person, because they can, you know, empathize better. Because that's usually what it's weird how every study we look at between intelligence and whether they lean right or left is the smarter you are, the more left you go, you know, because you can think about things. And they don't like that. So if you destroy education and you make it hard to get a college education, I mean, look at the way these people are going. You don't want to go get a college education. All the things in college are pointless, aren't they? It's just look at these stupid degrees that no one should do, right? Convincing everyone. Because it's not just these YouTubers. Like, if you look at almost any media outlet, they're almost all extremely right-wing. You know what I mean? People go, oh, well, Fox is really bad. And it's like, well, CNN's pretty right-wing as well. You know, so is so many newspapers. It's like, over here, we don't have a left-wing, we don't have any left-wing news. None, right? We have impartiality, which means that the impartiality boards are run by right-wing people and love right-wing news. So we have 1 or 2 actual left-wing newspapers and about 10 that are right-wing, and no left-wing news stations, but 3 right-wing news stations. And that's not including the shitty ones that are set up like fucking Britain's First or whatever it's called. And you get them over there as well, where it's just people throwing away money to spew right-wing talking points at no one. I can't remember what the fuck they're called, but yeah.
So see, that's why I found this article so interesting, because it doesn't talk about all these things, but it alludes to them just by giving the facts. Sumami, I agree with you completely. We're all just different shades. Among humans now, there aren't different races. We're all the same. We're just you look like whatever your ancestors look like, based on their ancestors, based on the geographical place they came from in the world. The environment shapes.
I don't want to nitpick, but I've been listening to a lecture series by, I think his name's Brian Fagan, talking about human prehistory, and that's not necessarily true. There's a theory. I'm like I said, I'm being nitpicky, just because I've just listened to it like this morning. There's an actual theory going around about that the human sapiens is actually conglomerations of lots of different races all mating with each other over a period
Well,
of about 5,000 years.
that's true too. I mean, like if you look at like over in like Nepal and that area, they have a lot of like the Denovian traits and stuff because they absolutely mated with those mountain people, and
Well, yeah, it's like
their
speaking of the
genes reflect
Chinese and
such.
the Tibetans.
There's
The Chinese,
Neanderthal is more prevalent in some areas because they
European
absolutely
specifically,
mated with those people. Yeah, no, I agree with that point. But also that tells us it goes a step further because we're all shades of the same colors. Yes, but then also those prior races of hominids.
Yeah.
We also have that. We're also just variations of all of those.
Yeah, because there was
and
like
that,
something like 20, 25 different species of humans once upon a time.
yeah. And all of that mixes together to give you the product of what we have now. And all of that is subject to evolution as well. But yeah, it's not an easy, thing. It's kind of complex. I made it sound a lot simpler than it is.
Yeah, I just mean with that evolution thing, we're kind of on the ass end of evolution when we don't really evolve because everybody mates.
Well, right.
It evolves the other way, where we start actually getting deformities and we start getting genetic things.
We quit becoming fit to our environment and started making our environment fit to us.
Yeah, it's fucked us.
Yeah.
Go on, Al. You just gonna say something?
Well, I just wanted to build on that because there's something people often say, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, is that because of the line of time bringing us from, point A to point B in evolution, there's this assumption that we're evolving forward or evolving to something better, but evolution's actually gone in all directions to fit to the environment. And yes, humans have manipulated our environment and our ability to engage with it in a lot of different ways in maybe the last 30 to 40,000 years has been like the biggest change in that, but I think we've constantly been doing that since the first tool use, since the first development of brains and the brains that could actually start to manipulate the environment far more than other animals did. But lots of animals do. Any animal that digs itself a burrow is modifying its environment. It all depends on how you think about it, but there's no directionality to it. So if you think about and I'm the worst person to explain this, but there's these animals that were originating the predecessors to the whale started out in the water, came to the land, and went back to the water is the understanding. That isn't directional. That's like where was their best fit? What was the most successful thing?
Evolution would say the water came to them.
Well, yeah, and that's right. And so the ones that could deal with more water had more offspring and were more successful. And so, I don't think we can judge our evolutionary success anymore in our world the way it sits right now. I don't think that's a fair judgment. But
the problem is
we're not moving in a direction.
We are though. We are as humans though. That's the problem. I agree with you with every other species. I just say this because our brains are getting smoother and we're losing the ability to reproduce because we haven't evolved properly.
Well, that is probably true because we are manipulating things so that the people that are born wouldn't have had success otherwise.
Right, but that's what I mean. That's why I say we're evolving the other way. Like I agree with you on every other animal, just us.
There's a lot to think about in that. I just wanted to point that out because one of the more racist things that's been said is that, and this is something that was pressed on for a long time, is that there was some sort of material difference between people of different skin tones, and that's stupid. It's one of those things that is really annoying to hear, especially when you start understanding that is just a chemical buildup that is an adaptation to living in different regions of the world. And because we started spreading out of areas that were exposed to a certain amount of sun to other areas, the most successful people, when there still were those pressures, were the ones that had a certain skin tone in one area or another. And that adaptation isn't a change in species, race, or anything like that. It's just the people that lived around that developed the ability to absorb more vitamins from the sun and that sort of thing. If with fairer skin, and
so there's another pressure at play that other species don't have as much as we do, and that's the social angle of it, because humans being a social species, and why we have magical thinking and all that stuff, at least from what I understand, seems to all come from the wanting to be a more social species. And I think our social environment can also drive evolution, and that's something that doesn't really take place for other animals. I don't know if there's science to back that, but I imagine it's a thing, because it where we've been able to make our environments more fit to our needs rather than change our our makeup to fit it. I feel like that social pressure is the main leading pressure that we as humans experience now, rather than the environmental pressures. And to think that wouldn't drive evolution seems kind of silly to me, but I don't know if that's actually a thing or not. I'm kind of pulling it out of my ass.
So with that sort of stuff, I kind of think when it comes to people not accepting that sort of stuff, I think it really comes to people don't want to. There's a lot of people that don't want to accept we're animals. You know what I mean? And I think that sort of thing, especially like with some of those things that were in the way the polls were saying that people think. I think that comes down to a lot, because God didn't make us. Well, God made us, right? So that means that we didn't evolve from chimps. Those chimps didn't evolve from other primates, and those primates didn't come from monkeys, which didn't come from other mammals, and so on and so forth, right? So all these pressures that might be visited upon us, well, we have to ignore all them because they don't matter, because we're the super special things, right? And that super special feeling that a lot of people feel, it doesn't even have to come from religion. I've met very non-religious people that will outright deny that they are animals.
Right. Yeah.
That there's like plants, there's insects, there's fucking fungus, there's animals, and then there's us.
Yeah,
and we don't fit into any of those natural systems. Say again?
We're this special thing, right? Like all the traits we share with all the other great apes, confirming that we are great apes is not acceptable. And I'm sure everyone in the chat and all of us on the panel have heard like a gazillion times that my grandfather ain't no monkey.
Yeah.
And then also like with the Abrahamic God and that creation myth, the idea that we're made in God's image. It's funny that God made all those other great apes so close, but not quite the same. But yeah, no, it's really very interesting to me that they have to hold on so tight to this to keep that religion, right? But it's these religious myths, like the folks that have to take them so literally, are maybe part of the problem. We get back into this, circling back to this like evangelical support for Trump. It's they have something taught to them from a young age, and they keep saying the same things, even though they've been debunked over and over again. Like the old, like, if we came from monkeys, how come there's still monkeys? Like it's just, that's absolutely stupid. It's like, if your cousin is the grandchild of your grandparents, why are you alive? Like, or vice versa. Like, it's just a stupid thing. And yes, I'm sorry, Aaron. My apologies to everyone. Although I was called eye candy earlier, so
yeah.
You may have to put a poll up there, Joe. Although I'm not.
I certainly will. I'll get right on that. You guys keep talking. I'll take care of the poll.
Because that sort of stuff leads people down dark paths as well, man. Because fucking the amount of like monkey torturing rings and stuff like that. Because people want to deny us being animals so hard, they go out and they torture like monkeys and chimpanzees and stuff. There was just recently, like a month or two ago, there was a woman, I think it was in Kidderminster over here, who ran an entire thousands of people plus strong ring of monkey torturers throughout the entire world. Because, well, they're too much like us, so we need to show them who's who, right? And it's one of those things like before I was saying about people just want to be knobheads a little bit, right? And I kind of think that feeds into it, and in this thing of like, it's like, I know it's an old Carlin bit, but I love Carlin dearly, right? And it goes on about we keep on going, oh, well, why is Trump this? But why is Trump popular, or Bush, or whoever he was talking about at the time? Why are all these knobheads popular? And it's like, well, it's the public's fault, isn't it? Can we stop blaming the politicians? It's not the politicians' fault. It's the public. It's the same. All these people are made by the same schools, by the same people, and the same systems with the same amounts of money, right? And all we're doing is feeding. It's just a reoccurring cycle of shit feeding itself over and over, getting worse and worse. Because why would you want anything to be better if you can separate everyone out into the little groups, and you can be against this, and you can be for this, and you're one of these, and you're one of these? Well, then all the rich people get to run away with all the fucking money because we're all too busy fighting about bullshit things that really don't matter. And that's why we're supposed to be seen as like leftists, these evil dissidents, because we're against this order, going, look how bad this order is. Look at how much they're fighting, making you all fight each other. And we're the bad ones. And that's why I think when you look at stuff like that, when it's like, well, these Christians are for racism, and these Christians are for this, and these Christians are for that, but then the people that aren't are like for this and this and this, it's more showing, hey, you're all a bunch of selfish pricks. And the people who kind of think that maybe all this really is all it is, maybe it means we should take care of it a little bit more instead of preparing for the end, that afterwards, where none of this matters. So why take care of now? Because God will sort it out.
Yeah, right. No, I've been told that thing before, that by creationists in my area, that things like climate change aren't important because we as humans can't end the world or anything, that only God does that, and if God chooses it, that's how it'll happen. My question was, well, don't you care about like the world your kids and grandkids grow up in? Like, even if the world doesn't end, like, do you want them to just live in a shit world? Anybody that wants to join, I dropped a link just now. I'll leave it there for a couple minutes and I'll take it out. I don't let those hang very long, but
according to some of my family members, yes, they don't care that the world is worse for their grandchildren.
Right, right. No.
Because it's
God's plan.
Yeah, well,
it's for the rapture.
It's a bit like a bunch of crabs in a pot, right? You put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, right? And then one crab tries to climb out, well, the other crabs pull them back in. Yeah, it's the same shit. That's why when people get, oh, what, you want to cancel student debt? Well, I have to pay student debt. It's like, yeah, tough. Yeah. The world changes, right?
Yeah.
People want everyone to suffer just as much as they did.
Yeah.
And
what about? I always thought that was funny. I always thought it was funny.
Have a computer.
So they wanted to cancel student debt mostly for people who were unable to pay those student loans off and stuff because school is so expensive. And then the people who were able to pay them off and were financially able to do that, and then are mad because they were able to do it. I don't really understand the logic there, honestly. But yeah,
well, it's because people don't want people to not suffer when they did, right?
It's all about exclusion. Absolutely. You know what I mean?
Well, the economy hasn't been fair to people. Like I complained about this in the text chat earlier. Like the economy for me, as I've grown up and entered the workforce and then tried to make it all work again for myself, the economy has gone so far spread apart that I can no longer consider. I used to consider myself like working class / middle class, and Canadian definitions may be different than American ones, but I now consider myself the working poor. I'm just working to get by. I have potentially at the end of my working life, I may be able to pay off my home at some point, but the way the government has screwed around with the way the banks do interest rates, that's fucked me up. It's fucked up everybody. And the same with, and sorry, Joe, I don't know if you allow swearing on your channel, so I retract every
swear it up, Al.
Seal and
I swear all the fucking time.
Give all the fucks out. Oh,
that's why I come here, so I can swear.
Yeah, thanks.
Go, shit, fuck, cunt, cut. And I'll see you later, everybody.
I don't think I'm on the video anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I missed most of your show, Dave. I got to go back and watch it. But my point is that the fighting amongst people for these petty little bullshit differences that are just surface level aesthetic differences between people, and getting all hung up on that, and making people think about that is to take away from what we should really be pissed off about, which is that the elite classes far and wide run the government, whether they're literally in there or whether they're financially manipulating who's in there. It's a fucked up thing. It's something we should be pissed off about. It's something we should fight against. And the government literally pulls the levers for the banks on at the behest of the truly rich and the upper class, if you want to call it, even though they're all just regular people. There's no difference between us. Like Crystal said, there is no line. We're all people. That's true. But the way our society is ordered, the working class are becoming the working poor. The middle class are becoming, they either have to go one direction or the other. And very few of us are lucky enough to have access to the, like, none of us are lucky enough to trip over enough fucking horseshoes to end up at the super high end of things. Most of us, like, I don't know, if your life's like mine, as soon as you think you get ahead, something blows on your truck or your car or whatever, or, you know, the price of a bus pass goes up 20%, or something comes. As soon as you think you're even with the ground, somebody kicks you down another couple of pegs. And when you go asking for more money from your boss, they're like, sorry, I'm suffering too. I got nothing for you, and take it or leave it. And that's something people have heard over and over again. And so you've got people pushing hard against unions, people pushing hard against anything that brings labor up, anything that makes it easy to live. And, you know, everyone's seen these memes. And I don't care whether you believe in God or not. If you have trouble paying the bills at the end of the month like I do, then read these fucking memes and see what they're getting at. Memes aren't the truth, but they tell you something about it. And since when is it fucking like left-wing fucking wingnut policy to want to be able to afford food, shelter, and a fucking education for yourself so that you can find a good job? Why is that a fucking crazy thing to ask for? Being able to make ends meet at the end of the month.
I know that sounds woke.
Be able to go away for like 2 weeks and enjoy yourself. Once a
let me get conspiracy theory on you here.
Just like we had working communism once, right before like we made money. When they were making like these stone cone temples in like fucking Mesopotamia, right? And everybody got food and everybody got all this shit. And then people introduced money, right? And values. Yeah. And then ever since then, people have actually wanted to be poor because it's kind of where patriotism takes you. You should want to give up everything you have to make the thing around you, the conglomeration of entities that is a country, empire, whatever, to work better, right? So we've always had kings and emperors that have literally taken from everyone all the time. And then World War II ended and we went, hey, right, we've got rid of some of these robber barons. Maybe we should actually start taking care of people. And they did. And that's why all these right-wing fucks, they love the fucking 50s, right? Because everything was so much better. And one of the reasons the 50s, especially in America, was so much fucking better because it was socialist as fuck. And yet, you know, the government was just building houses for everyone. They were building interstates. Everything was being made for everyone, the New Deal and all this shit. And everyone had stuff. And then people started thinking, too many people have stuff. We should cut that apart a little, and then cut it apart a little, and then cut it a little apart, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. And now you get people actually arguing, yes, my life should be worse. My life should be worse because they've been told by so many people around them, not just the priest telling them that they're a lonely fucking worm and don't deserve anything, right? Yeah. Everything in society says you're a lowly piece of shit, and you should be happy to have the shitty job. You should be happy to have the shitty insurance. You should be happy to have the shitty house. You should be happy to not be able to always be connected to the internet or water or whatever. Because have you not seen the modern world in which we live? Yes, you can go on the YouTubes and you can watch people in these wind videos go out and fly around in their fucking water jetpacks and all this shit. And you could be that too. But just watch this and pretend and be happy that you don't have anything. You could look at it on the screen. Isn't that enough?
So let me get a little conspiracy theory on you real quick. When you start at the point of you print every dollar at a debt, if you give me $1, I owe you $1.50, right? When you start from there, you're required to then do what you just said. You have to tell people to be happy with it and all those things because you have to have that working class to pay that debt. We all essentially work for the banks when you work. I mean, that's how that That's how that follows. But Aaron made a point about, working on a house and doesn't even own it. In America, you don't ever own a house. You're a deed holder. You don't own a house. You don't own your car. Yeah. You don't own any of those things. The government owns all that shit, and they just let you stay there. That's why they make you deed holders.
Well, it's the same here, man. We're having a real housing crisis because all the land is owned by the same fucking landed gentry that has owned it since 1066, and they don't want to fucking hand over the land to anyone. So we've got no fucking houses. So even renting a shitty apartment, is so much fucking money. Living in the middle of nowhere, right? And then, no, that's more expensive in Britain because there's not a lot of that. But living in a shitty rural town like where I live, where no one has any fucking money, the whole place is run down, half the roads don't fucking work, half the shops are shut down. It still costs a stupid amount of money a month. Rent used to be £200-300 pounds a month, right? Now it's £600-700 a month, which is nearly £1,000 a month. And this is just for a shitty flat in a shitty town. Because no one wants to fucking build anything. We've had a conservative government for 14 years that has built fuck all and gone, well, you like the green land, don't you? And it's I don't know. I'd like a place to be warm.
they will take that bitch if you don't pay taxes on it, Maya. That car. So
we live in a fucked up world where we're supposed to have democratic representation. Some people in the chat may live in places where there isn't a democracy, but if that's the case, I'm surprised they're on the fucking internet. Right. But the idea of this representative democracy that we theoretically live in, and I believe that that's at least the way we understand it. And I own my personal truck outright. I must insure it. I'm legally obligated to. I don't know if in the USA, you're so free that you don't have to insure your vehicle. And I have to plate it.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I have to pay tax on it when I bought it. And then here's the weird thing.
But you're just a title holder. You don't own the car.
No, well, yeah, but I technically I own the title on this vehicle because if I sell it, it's a little green piece of paper I sign and hand over to in response for cash. And theoretically, the physical.
What is that title supported by, though? Laws and the regulations.
Yeah, there's laws. There's a bunch of laws and stuff. The government has a lot of shit in place. The thing that I find funny is if I bought, I don't know, say a weightlifting set from the store for $500 and I use it and I sell it for $400, nobody pays tax on that. I pay tax when I buy it. But if I sell it to Joe, he doesn't pay tax to the government for that again. My truck that I bought, this is a law in the country I live in. I don't know if it's everywhere. I bought the truck, I paid the tax for it. Let's say I paid $40,000 for it and I turn around and sell it to Joe for $35,000. He then has to pay the tax on $35,000 again, even though I paid the full tax on the 40 when I bought it. That's a fucked up thing we have. It only exists on vehicles in my country.
Let me explain what I mean the government is not going to come take your car. That's not what I mean. But if the government won't let you use your car or sell your car or do anything else with it, do you really own it?
I've been through Alabama and I have seen plenty of cars on the front of fucking yards used as fucking furniture, so you can still own that fucking car and use it.
You can keep it in your garage, but you can't sell it if you don't pay taxes on it.
Yeah, you can't use it. You can't use it properly as a vehicle, and it's not.
You can't do anything.
It's not unreasonable. I don't know what point it becomes unreasonable, but it is not unreasonable that our government keep our roads safe by making sure drivers and vehicles are in a decent shape to use the roads because we have to share them.
I'm from Maine. They don't care about that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, in New England's its own special place.
No, Maine is its own special thing.
Maine
is different.
New England's bad, but Maine is a special thing. There's a brilliant video of some guy going from New Hampshire to Maine, and it's fucking amazing. It's this nice clean road. We're just going to Maine now.
What it's like driving from Ontario to Michigan.
Michigan and Maine are very similar.
Yeah, I've been to both.
We're two fuck states that no one cares about.
Yeah,
I'm trying to go to every M state that there is.
Maybe this is close. Maybe this is right, Aaron. This is closer to what I mean.
You muted Dave.
Because if you own a car, and what a car
I'll
is
say
for,
Michigan. Yeah, Michigan is bad.
The utility that a car provides. If you can't do any of those things with it, if they're telling you can't use the thing you own, how do you say you own it? So yeah, it's more of a philosophical position. I agree.
And on private property, you just about
concept. I agree.
The most fucked up thing in the economy is how everyone gets lied to about inflation. Everyone thinks inflation is just about oh, they put inflation down, prices are coming down. It's like that's not how inflation works.
No, they slow
it's still going up.
They slow it down. Listen, inflation.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's fucking ridiculous.
We should have a worldwide strike based on inflation alone.
Yeah.
Until if our governments are going to intervene on behalf of banks and rich people and large corporations, fine. But put them at the bottom of the fucking pole underneath all of us. If you're a working person and inflation goes up, your wages go up by inflation plus 0.25%. And if a company wants to raise the cost of goods they're selling, fine, but every person that works for them gets a raise the day before so that they can afford the fucking raise they're putting in the prices. That's the only way inflation's okay. If you make it so I can always afford my life, fine. If you always make it so I can never catch up, so I can never have a fucking chance, then fuck you.
But
here's my one more thing about the car, okay?
Yeah, right.
And then I'll stop. So here's the thing about the car, though. If I am in some kind of debt or owe child support or anything like that, the government can make me sell that car. So I don't have the decision there. I have no. So what is? I guess the question is, what is actual ownership of something like that? Because if
it's an asset.
It's
an asset
that they can do with as they please in the situation comes up that they want to do it. And with the way that our laws and stuff work and the people that are making those laws, I mean,
it's also a positive though.
Who says they can't change that and do it, make it even worse? Because they can.
It's also a positive though. I mean, if you own a car, it's good to, if you want to get a loan or credits.
I'm not. Yeah, no. I would much rather have a car than not.
Yeah, I mean, it does help in situations where you can say, I own these assets. You know what I mean, to help you for collateral or whatever.
Well, we got lots of things we can complain about when it comes to automobiles because. I don't know how often this happens in the U.S. I think it happens pretty commonly, especially when you get into the protectionist ideals that Trump has, and I think we started talking about that. So I'll try to bring it back, even though I would be on a larger tangent on my own channel. If we had auto manufacturing, and the province I live in, Ontario, has big auto manufacturing. It has for a long time. We border with a lot of U.S. states, and we produce our own steel, and we have a lot of other things we produce. But it's getting cheaper and cheaper for corporations to outsource this to other places. And it used to be that Canada and the U.S. had an auto pact together, so that we would make some of the stuff here, and the U.S. would make some of the stuff there. And buying a domestic vehicle meant one made in the U.S. or Canada. And Canadian people would buy preferentially North American made vehicles over any others. And I don't know what this is like in the US, but if I go buy parts for I'm in a Chevrolet right now, which is theoretically a domestic vehicle, compared to like if it was a Toyota, for instance, which I've owned, and every Toyota I've owned, it was made in North America. But when you get into this idea about the protectionist economy, which I think is pretty fucked as a concept, because it doesn't deal with the fact that we live in a global economy, and we're going to have to deal with that. But I do feel like the lies they tell to people about what they're going to do with their tax dollars is bullshit, because they'll tell people everything's going to be better if we use your tax dollars to bribe, say, GM or FCA or Ford or whatever to build another thing in your country in your province, in your state, whatever, your community is going to like, everything's going to be better for you, but we're going to use your tax dollars to bribe this corporation that's then going to turn around and sell these vehicles to you at inflated prices forever and ever. That's bullshit all the way around. And my daughter just got back in the truck with me, so I'm going to go back to just listening. But Joe, thanks for letting me come on and
no, thanks, Al.
And ramble.
I've got a surprise for you, Al. You got to come watch the Wild and Wonderful Watts, West Virginia, with me.
Yeah, no, I saw your message. I checked it out quickly online, and I'll hook up with you through the week to come up with a plan to we'll do a double stream or something and go through that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Good to see you, Zach and Dave and everyone in the chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. And I know, unlike on Michael Beverly's stream, I'll make sure it's not monetized so they don't shut us down in the middle of the stream.
And I was just having that conversation about, cities and, even with Ken Ham, as an example, he comes in, they give him all kinds of tax breaks, and it's like, well, that's just not fair where you can just say, hey, come into our state and you get a great deal. You don't have to pay any bills. Well, somebody's paying the bills, right? And it's the community that's paying the bills. Somebody's still paying the light bill and everything else for that factory, right? So it does seem to be an issue where, come into our town, build your place in our town, and you don't have to pay any taxes. That seems to be counterproductive to why you want it there. You know what I mean?
Do you ever think that some of this is all just like these various companies and rich people just getting ready for when people don't matter anymore because it's not that far off? So really, they've been
I
making
think they already live in that reality.
The taxes are the taxes, and everybody should have to pay them regardless of where you, build your factory or whatever.
But like, I'm also going back a bit in the conversation as well because it's like everything since Thatcher and Reagan and maybe Nixon a little bit, it's kind of been destroying everything little piece by little piece. And it's kind of like they do. Well, automation came in and that's got rid of a load of jobs. And then, women started working. I mean, women should definitely be able to work, but you can't pretend that half the population suddenly working isn't going to devalue jobs. And when that happens, and then you start getting computerizing things, so you don't need as many people writing stuff. And then AI's coming, man. And then when AI comes and we've got full automation, there's got to be no jobs for anyone. And it kind of seems like they've all been, kind of running down where the whole population isn't going to matter, and they know it. So they've been getting themselves ready for it. You know what I mean?
Well, let me just give a little disclaimer here. I'm from Kentucky and have lived here my whole life, so I already kind of see it that way. It's a Commonwealth state and it's a shithole. So it's a beautiful place. Kentucky itself isn't bad, just the people. So what you're saying there, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's every day.
See, like in Maine, like you guys had a bunch of mines and everything, but in Maine, we were all lumber and potatoes, right? But the more that gets taken over by automation and the more that gets taken over, there's less jobs going around. And nobody wants to talk about that because, well, they don't want to do it themselves a little bit. You know what I mean?
This is not true.
Yeah, possession means fuck all.
Yeah.
Possession means that if I get caught with my perfectly legal tobacco in this country, possession means that I will go to prison and they get to take it from me.
I'm not anti-taxes, Robin. That's not what I'm saying. That's not at all what I was getting at with any of that. I'm not against paying taxes on those things. That's not it. I'm against the power that it gives them over it if you don't or can't or haven't or whatever. Or even if you have, they can still take your shit. I mean, that they do it all the time, all day long. They have whole branches of government that just take people's shit.
unless it's a church.
Unless it's a church, and then you can do whatever.
Hands off.
Don't want to get involved in religion. Separation of church and state, except for if it's not convenient.
You get to keep all your stolen money, and we get to keep ours. That's the agreement.
Well, we learned it from you, the Church of England, and the you guys had the first central bank. I
thought that was the Catholics and thingy.
Now I guess it is. That's true. The Vatican is its own.
Yeah, but I mean, like the Templars specifically were counted as the first banks, weren't they? Because the Templars were supposed to be considered the safest means of travel for that sort of thing.
The Vatican did, but the Vatican is so tiny that it is going to be that way. It's its own country. It is going to have only one bank that is their central. So you're right about that. But as
I
far
mean,
as like a
ago.
central bank that like a huge central bank, I believe it was the Bank of England, right?
I'm not 100% sure. I know very little about the Bank of England.
Yeah.
To be honest, when it comes to English, I've lived here for 20 years. I know fuck all about English.
Well, it's hard to really look at information about that topic because it borderlines a lot of these conspiracy theories to do with the Rothschilds and all that crap. And I'm not really biting on all that. I mean, I do think that capitalism is unsustainable, but
what's meant to be. That's the point. That's the point of capitalism. It's meant to be unstable because you need an entire class of fucked people to be on that fallen
not
from the
unstable,
side.
unsustainable.
Yeah, but because it's just constant growth, and constant growth can never work. But it has done for the past 100 years. So if we just keep on hoping and praying, it will definitely get better.
If you keep merging, I know they try to make laws against monopolies, but if you keep merging things into central companies, eventually you get to where 1% of the population controls 99% of the money. Oh wait, we're already there.
It's what I hate about Microsoft, because Microsoft broke up the monopoly laws in 2001.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft became far too big with its computing stuff, and then the government went, "You're too big," and split it in half. And then Microsoft sued them and won. So now monopoly laws are almost non-existent in America because they never made them again.
Well, that's actually, there's more to that than that. But wasn't just that Microsoft, because what Microsoft did is that they signed contracts with all computer designers that they had to include Windows on their computer. And whenever they made them split, what did Microsoft do? They became the biggest stockholder in Apple. And it's been that way always. All of these companies that compete are the largest stockholders in their competition. Because if we've learned anything from the military-industrial complex and war, is that play both sides and you always win. So
it's like over here when you go to the supermarkets, we have like Tesco's, we have Asda, we have Morrison's, right? They're the three main ones that aren't, because we have supermarkets denoted by class, you see. So if you're middle class, you don't go to one of those, you go to Sainsbury's. And if you're upper class or whatever, you go to Waitrose or something higher than that. It's mental, right? But you go to something like Tesco's, Morrison's, or Asda, and you go 1 week, and we'll just use a jar of coffee. A jar of coffee will be on sale, right? And then you go to Tesco's the next week. It won't be on sale in Asda anymore. It'll be on sale in Tesco's and then Morrison's. And they do that with all the products, even though they're not supposed to collude with each other. And because no one gives a flying fuck, everyone gets fucked on prices all the time because all these companies are working together the most amount. And like nobody cares and kind of thinks that that's democracy working, and it's really cool.
When I worked in retail, one of my first jobs as a stock boy, they were going around. Everybody was all busy one day doing stuff, and they're all chugga with the
I've had to give away
price tag things, and I'm like, what's going on? And it's like, oh, we're going to have a big sale this weekend. So they're marking the prices up before the sale.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, you could have just bought it any other day for the same price.
I was reading a book called it's like the Luck Factor or something. It's about luck and how luck works with people and how it actually works, right? And the guy started off by talking about a friend he had that worked in what's this stupid hippie place in Arizona with all the aliens, and they think that all the mystical powers are there. There's
Area 51.
What?
Area 51?
No. Like it's a town, Sedona. That's it, Sedona.
Oh, okay.
It's because they go, we got 3 ley lines, and all the mystical powers comes through, and it's just the worst hippie place. Anyway, there was a woman that was working there, and she made jewelry with it's the shitty blue stone. You know what I mean? I can't remember what it's called. But she was making stuff like that, and nobody was buying it, right? And then she's like, I'm going on vacation, and she told the saleswoman that what you should do is you should fucking. You should just, put a 75% sale on. It's not going anywhere. Just fucking get rid of it. And the woman read it wrong and put the prices up by 75%. And then fucking people bought it, right? Because people are idiots. People go, oh, it's expensive. It must be good. And corporations have more than figured this out. That if we just keep on putting up prices, well, people will think it's better because it's more expensive. Because that's what,
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting conversation. There's a lot of rabbit holes it can start to go down. And I think that it's hard to, it's hard to really give an opinion on why it is that way or why things like that without like invoking some kind of conspiracy theory, because they try to keep all this stuff quiet and distract you with other things. And
they don't keep this quiet at all. You can listen to them talking about it in board meetings. They put quarterly meetings out for people to read, and people don't read them. They tell you very specifically how they're going to fuck you over in the next quarter, and people don't read these things.
Well,
they literally do, because it's a shareholders thing, and they put it out there. It's just nobody cares.
Right.
And nobody knows about it.
They put it out to the shareholders, who are the owners.
They only care about the one line in that report, and that's how much do we make on our investment.
They go to the last page. What's that number at the end?
Okay, sign it off.
They do get released.
No, I don't mean
I
don't mean the individual companies, and none of it's actually a secret. It's just that it's buried behind so much red tape that most people don't have access to it, and the government itself allows these things to go on while acting like it doesn't.
That's what I don't like about conspiracy theory so much, because there's so much bad shit that happens out in front of everyone, and people are like, yeah, but we didn't go to the moon, and there's Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, but these people are colluding against you to steal all of your money so they can put up the number of their bank balance, and they're like, yeah, but have you seen the thing flying in the sky? There was a hairy thing in the woods.
The
Bigfoot.
The information being available is fine, but what the major point I'm driving at is the way that it's done to.
I got Bigfoot and Nessie today.
Oh, nice. The way that it's done to discriminate against, well, not even discriminate against, the way that it's done to be, I don't know what word to use here. It's done to treat your average person like shit, and all these things like that may be available. And sure, and Maya said he's right. It's not that no one cares, no one reads. You're right, but why does no one read? Because they've crippled the education system, and they make sure that everybody's paying attention to Trump talking about eating cats and dogs rather than talking about these complex things, because people are too fucking stupid to understand them now.
There's one more thing to add to that, though. We are taught from childhood to bully intelligent people. So if you want to read and learn stuff, then you become one of the elites, right? Because you know stuff. And you're not supposed to like those sort of people. So you need to stay away from being that sort of person. And it's taught to you young from birth. It's okay that the sports star is, that's the quarterback of the fucking varsity team, and it doesn't matter that he's beating up the guy who won, or the person who won the fucking, the science fair, right? Because jocks matter, and nerds are knobheads. You know what I mean? And it's taught to us from early age, and then they feed into it with, hey, you don't want to know things, because then it'll lead you away from God. Those who know stuff, the fools, they don't know stuff, right? And then you get later in life and you want to, if you want to start if you're thinking about not voting right wing because, a clever person made a study and said, look at all the stuff's going on. Well, you can't listen to the clever person, because the clever person is a horrible elite, because this person who knows stuff is always bad, because they're breaking the illusion. So you need to stay away from them.
Well, sometimes rich and powerful people also confirm that stereotype.
True, but people
every disaster movie begins with some scientist warning them, and nobody listens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that.
No. And as for in the chat, I do think that people care about these things. Again, if they're able to, number one, understand it, which our education system has been made to where they can't. And if you want to get an education to where you can, that's behind a huge paywall now. So it's not that the information isn't there. It's that it's purposely made to where nobody's going to pay any attention to it, and that's what happens.
Well, it's also like when you look at Republicans, and I mean like high up Republicans like Karl Rove and fucking all these different people from back in the day, they change their minds on stuff, right? And when do they change their minds on stuff? When it personally affects them, right? I didn't even mean to say Karl Rove. I meant to say fucking Dick Cheney, right? Because his daughter was like a lesbian or whatever, wasn't she? So then he was suddenly for the gays, because people are a bunch of selfish, ignorant bastards who don't give a shit about anything that isn't in their blinders.
And so how has that changed?
Yeah.
Look at Elon Musk.
Yeah, so these rich people not wanting, fucking a better minimum wage or not wanting workers' rights, well, they're not a worker and they're not going to work at that, so they don't give a shit about it. But the second they were adamant, if you put them at a minimum wage and put them in a dead-end job, well, then they would suddenly give the fuck about unions and workers' rights because they've got the blinders on, like everyone does, and only gives a shit about what they can see. You know what I mean? So even when like people like me who get too into this shit and it fucks them up, right? You go see a psychiatrist, what do they tell you? Don't pay attention to stuff. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And because the whole world is just telling you it doesn't matter, bro. Just ignore it. Just ignore it.
Go watch football and enjoy your life. Quit worrying about those things. Yeah. They want
I can worry about things and watch wrestling. It doesn't I can do both. I don't need to like everybody should worry.
My game starts in 25 minutes, but it doesn't look good because our quarterback is out. And
you son of a bitch, Dave. I talk about the distraction, and here's Dave. He brings up, well, here's what's going on in football.
Tua's out. Tua's out there. Tua's out.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
Got thumped in the head.
I used to well be into
know what to do.
Football, and then the Patriots ruined it.
Talk about don't even start me on the Patriots were in my division. I mean, don't even get me started.
Who you support then?
Dolphins.
Good man, my friend. So do I. Good man.
All right.
My dad, we lived in Maine, but my dad only supported the Dolphins because he wrote to all the teams, and the Dolphins were the only team that got back to him. So they were his favorite team. Nice. And that's what became mine.
I'm disappointed in both of you.
Well, I used to play it like whatever.
Hey, let me tell you something though, and I've mentioned this before. Like, I used to be an Alex Jones follower. Like, when I was in college, Alex Jones and the 9/11 Truth Movement, him infiltrating Bohemian Grove, all of that stuff, man. I was all about all that junk. So some of the things I say, you may hear bits and pieces of old that stuff come out, but I understand a little better now. I'm not trying to go down.
That's why you don't make moonshine in a radiator.
Well,
it's easy to follow down any of those.
I have few choices.
I mean, like one of the I tried to do YouTube about 10 years ago. One of the reasons I stopped is because I just wanted to debunk everything so much that I started going down that anti-SJW thing where I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe feminists are knobheads. And then I caught myself doing it, and I'm like, why am I doing this? So I just had to stop and collect myself for a few years.
I don't think
it's easy to follow down. Because
imposed ignorance.
I try to keep the open mind, like we were talking earlier, that you can't know everything, right? There can be things existing in another dimension or something, doing all kind of ghostly things or whatever they're doing. Who knows, right? But what we do know is that doesn't occur. But I like to keep my mind open that when people are seeing things and experiencing things, now a lot of them I can discount. But maybe there are a few where some spooky things are really happening to people. And that would be really interesting to narrow it down to those and actually investigate the ones that, in the so-called unexplained, percentage. That would be really interesting. But, obviously it's difficult when so many things are shown to have natural explanations or, other reasons to explain.
If I always wanted to do a thing like one of the things I wanted to do on YouTube, which wasn't even in the cards really, but I wanted to go and stay in haunted places and all that stuff overnight and film it just to show that it's all bullshit. Like that there's none of that's ever based on anything other than people's imagination or laws.
Once upon a time, I used to hang out with hippies all the time because I'm really into taking acid and mushrooms, and I really like psytrance. I was still all gothed up to the nines, But like, it's just what hippies were doing, so I was doing it because I like doing it. But then they start saying things, right? And like, oh, dude, man, there's a fucking haunted house that I had a rave in. And you're like, really? I remember this haunted house, right? And like, I'm part American Indian because of my granddad, right? So like, I can fool the shit out of British people, and I got some like shitty like Indian-looking feathers, and then like a hand rub, like I can go cleanse these places. And I used to go around with them and go, hey, let's see how haunted this is. And I used to fuck with them because I was a prick.
Are you familiar with Athens very much, Dave? In Ohio?
I know of Athens.
You never been there? So there used to be
maybe
there used to be a sanitarium
I've been a lot
in
of
Athens
places
called the Bridges, and it's right outside of where the college campus. The college campus is pretty much the only thing in Athens.
Yeah, we talked about this before.
Yeah, we used to go over and break into that place. Yeah, but yeah, that stuff's fun.
Well, and I think Bree was just talking about it. You can get things from old places. Old places are often drafty, so it's not unusual that one room would be colder in the house than others. You can have old wiring that gives off magnetic fields, old connections and everything else that make your lights flicker. On down the list. Yeah. You can live in an area with infrasound issues. There are natural reasons. You could have a gas emanating from the ground. There's a lot of things that could explain. Yeah, it could explain weird things going on in
but then it's no
house.
longer supernatural, right? Because anytime you explain something, you went beyond.
Yeah, I think
it's then part of the natural world.
I think it's Mike Shermer that says if I could demonstrate that I could read your mind because for some reason there's this connection with some kind of particle we discovered and it goes back and forth, then it wouldn't be supernatural. We would then have an explanation.
Right. Yeah. Once you have an explanation, you're no longer in the realm of supernatural.
Yeah. Two things. One, when it comes to ghosts, I always love when they go around with their little electric meters to measure electricity with their watches on and the flashlights and their other cameras. And
they've got 200 pounds of camera equipment.
and they've got everything cranked way up.
Yeah. And that thing about
everything's cranked way up.
About supernatural. That's why I say that God's supernatural. God can't be supernatural. He's the most natural thing. If he's ever
they're recording rat farts, which by the way, rats don't fart, but they're recording rat farts.
I always love the ghost hunting in America where they go into these oldish, because it's America, so even the old ones aren't that old. You get these oldish houses that are made of wood, and they go in and it creaks, and they're like, "Oh, did you hear that creak? Could you hear that?" And it's like, "Well, that was the wood."
Depending on the weather, if it's hot or cold here, in the evenings things start to settle, and you'll hear little creaks and pops, and the refrigerator will change when it's done running its cycle. So it's making some noise, and all that's just all because of temperature changing. So you can hear a lot of things.
When I lived in Maine, we lived in this shitty house, and my mum used to go around fucking throwing holy water over everything because it made a noise. There's the winter, and the house would go, brrr, and then she'd go, "It was that corner! Away with thee, Satan! Away!"
If you make moonshine in an old radiator, Al, it will taste like garbage. You won't want to drink it. It'll be awful. You don't want to do that. But on the other hand,
it's an old joke.
You won't have to worry about freezing at night.
It's an old joke. That's how
I know.
That's how Early does it on the Squidbillies too. But it's a stereotyping.
Now see, people want to joke about that with Kentucky, but that's one thing we do well is make liquor. I
feel like that where I live because it's like right? There's nothing to do. So what do people do? They make alcohol.
I'm gonna actually make some alcohol here pretty soon for myself.
Yeah.
I'm Scottish, so I don't really care for whiskey. But I don't really drink. So but
I'll remember
I
that.
like a little wine. I just like a little wine now and then is about all. Back in the day, we used to do shots of whiskey.
I'm a whiskey only man. I drink alcohol. I drink beer now because I'm poor.
Making moonshine is an art. You know, there are things to make it easier now. There is better technology and stuff, but it's fun to do. It's not like there's nothing scary about it, or like the stuff that if
as long as the pressure doesn't get too high, there's nothing.
Well, as long as you get the right alcohol and you don't go blind.
Well, no, that's true too. Don't drink the stuff that comes out first. That's you got to throw that away or use it.
That's a thing that kind of happens over here sometimes. You get like really established alcoholics that go to like bars that are open at from 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock in the morning. And then they use that 1 hour to find the hardest alcohol they can. And they try that stuff sometimes and it never goes well for them. They go, well, I've been drinking alcohol for a very long amount of time. It's like, well, you're not drinking alcohol, dickhead. You're drinking ethanol. It's like, it's not good for you.
Well,
yeah, but Britons don't drink like Americans. Americans even drink like, you know, except for drunks. But like Americans drink in a more social manner. Where British people drink like they don't want to live. A quiet night out is like 15, 20 pints.
Depends what bar
I know a lot of drunks.
Yeah, it depends what bar you go to. And my brother, brother put himself in the grave from just drinking way too much.
Hey, like I said, there's always drunks. But I'm just on about the usual, the way fucking Americans on the norm.
I'm a lightweight.
British people in the norm.
I know people that drink mouthwash daily. Like,
yeah, what 5-7% in wine or whatever. Then
but going to the pub every day and drinking 4 or 5 pints before you go home and drink is a constant in Britain. Like people not being able to smoke actually killed the pub industry because that's all British people like to do. They go home and they drink a brew, and they go to a pub and they drink a lot of pints, and they go home and they drink a brew.
Well, there's social drinking and then there's drinking.
Yeah, but British social drinking is drinking until everyone's paralytic. That's British social drinking.
Well, yeah,
They do, because like Britain, like what America beers are like 3-4%. British beers are like 5 or 6, and these people are drinking like 16 pints a day, just going, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Have you seen the 80% beer?
Yeah, they like it's fucking mental over here. They don't care.
Yeah.
Because they go, it's really high volume, so that's a challenge. So we should drink more of it.
Yeah.
one glass of wine and I'm good. I can't. I drink anymore, I'm just going to be asleep.
I drink like maybe 3 beers a year. I drank a whole bottle of wine on Bad Science Sunday, though. Not intentionally. Hold on a second.
Well, we do stuff like we get some champagne at, special occasions and stuff like that, but
when I had money, I liked having a nice selection of whiskeys, and I could go, right, this is my reading whiskey, this is my watching comedy whiskey, this is my horror movie whiskey, this is video game whiskey.
I just reached a point where I'm like, okay, I'm getting too old for the party style. You know what I mean?
I don't think I'm ever going to get to that.
I can't go at it like that anymore. So the drinking thing just was part of that,
I'm a Toys R Us kid. I don't want to grow up. I'm always going to party as much as I possibly can. I'm nearly 40 now, and everybody around me is like, we should stop doing this so much. I don't want to, though. It's not like the rest of the time is not fun.
And I tell myself a lot of times, getting older and stuff, it's like, man, I do this and do all these things I used to do in my youth and stuff. And it's like, but that's part of it. I've got all those memories of all the things I did do in my youth, right? And some of them weren't too smart, right?
Yeah.
But
I've been
so I don't need to get that polluted again. You know what I mean? I've been that polluted. You know what I mean?
I see the world as boring and evil. And really, a nice drink and a nice smoke and maybe a few tabs of acid just makes everything better. And like, I only get to live once, and I'm like, if I'm getting old, like, fuck it. I agree with what Dennis Leary said way back when in the 90s. And Dennis Leary said, why am I not quitting smoking? Well, because it takes off the years at the end. That's the adult diaper wearing kid in dialysis years, and I don't want them. Like, fuck them. It's like I'd rather live fast and die young, because being old is shit. And I don't just mean like 50. I mean like fucking being 70 or 80. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't need it. I'm just going to do as much as I possibly can. And then if I die young, well, then other people will have to deal with it. I'll be dead. I won't care.
We had our Timothy Leary years, and we had a lot of fun. We'd all get together and watch comedy movies or Pink Floyd or something, and I did all of it. And but that was another one. It's like, man, just one day you're just like, I can't do that to myself anymore. It just takes too much out of you.
Sorry, guys, my girlfriend was trying to fight the neighbors. Speaking of crazy Kentucky people.
I wouldn't know anything about crazy neighbors.
Yeah. No. Now that we have these, so where I live, there's like my road is a little short dead end road, and there's like 3 houses on it, and on the other side of the road, it's all apartment buildings, and these apartment buildings are kind of like, they're like slumlord apartment buildings. So we get a lot of creative individuals that join the neighborhood, and these people, they have this the most beautiful little pit bull puppy, just a beautiful dog, and it comes up here fucking around though, causing trouble, and so they won't it comes up here tearing shit up and everything. And,
oh yeah, them people don't know I'm crazy.
See, so but she's trying to get him to I mean that she took it up there apparently, and some lady up there hollered at her and said, if that dog's down there fucking around, just leave it alone and let it do it. And that's not how it's gonna go. And
I got the wind kicking out here, and it looks like a little bit of rain's blowing through. That's because, it's about time to light the grill. So, here, but it looks like it's not going to last on the radar. So,
well,
that's the oldest joke with running around here. It's like, oh, it's time to light the grill. Hey, it's starting to rain. Yeah, you need some rain. Does the lawn need watered? Let me go light the grill, right?
I mean, we got all the neighbors are crazy over here because fucking, like, you get, America, at least Maine, had some sense of community. You kind of knew your neighbors a little bit. No one knows fucking anyone here. Your neighbors, like, you can hear them because, like, on the other side of this wall is 3 inches of brick and then another house, and then another 3 inches of brick and then another house, and that goes on 15 to 20 times. And that's every road in Britain that isn't in the middle of nowhere. So you can hear everything they say, everything they do. You can hear things from 2 houses down and across the road. And everybody's fucking insane and fighting each other all the time. Because you just hear, you fucking what? You dickhead? Oh, you starting on me? Fucking hell. Oh, it's so, and everybody comes out and they have a little gussy and they go, oh, well, that's fun out there.
I think a bunch of us around here have heard each other and joked at each other saying, yeah, I heard you were pissed off the other day. And it's like, yeah, I heard you were pissed off last week.
Yeah.
We live in Maine. The whole state is a small town. No, the whole state is a forest.
I've lived here a long time, though, so I know neighbors come and gone over and over again, too. So
we got a lot more redneck ingenuity down here, though. I'll have to display some of that soon. Especially if Al joined me and watched the Whites of West Virginia, which is less than an hour. They live less than an hour from here, but that you'll understand better. The people figure shit out. Hey, I tell you what though, like sometimes they do scary shit. Like I've seen people who get their electricity shut off and will like take a pair of jumper cables and hook to the electrical wires and into their meter or whatever. We'll take the meter out and just jam them right in there, and fuck that. That's like you got a death wish. But about the dog though, it's a pit bull puppy. It's not there's no danger or anything. It's just their dog's going and tearing up people's trash and getting into everything, and it wants to come down here and play with my kid, but then it gets in the garden and fucks up that shit, and like there's So it's not a problem of it being dangerous. I'm not like, I don't think pit bulls are any different than any other dog. In fact, I'd rather see a pit bull than a
keep
poodle.
it in your own yard. Yeah.
Yeah. Just keep your dog up, because people will, like, where those apartments are there, they'll walk their dogs and let them shit in the neighbors' yards and stuff.
Yeah.
And I fixed that though. They don't do that anymore here.
It's hard to do that over here because everything's walled up everywhere. Everything's walled up and has 35 million security cameras on it. And by the way, only 2 of them are on, and you'll never guess which 2 they are.
I've only got 1 camera, but it's and we have no fence or wall or anything like that. Nobody has fences around here.
Britain's too squashed together. You have to, because you get like this house is only like 10, 15 feet across, and that means the yard is as well, and everybody else's is.
Actually, Aaron, you bring up an important point. I do think Dalmatians are assholes. I haven't met a Dalmatian that I like.
It's just because they're dumb. It's just because they're dumb dogs.
They're not very friendly dogs.
Because they're dumb. They don't know what they're doing.
I've interacted with.
The only dogs that worry me are Rottweilers.
I'm partial to labs.
I
love Rottweilers.
No, I love Rottweilers, but they worry me because Rottweilers are one of those. There's a couple other breeds, but Rottweilers are the ones I remember. Rottweilers are one of the breeds where the brains can engorge for no reason.
Yeah,
they're beautiful though. I had a couple of dogs that were half lab, half Rottweiler.
Dog fighting and cockfighting and pretty much anything else you can bet money on is like a thing out in the country here. So it's unfortunate. Yeah. I hate to see that, but
I like my labs though. Labs are smart. They almost know. They almost know what you're saying. You know, the minimal training. They learn to sit and what room to go in, and you know all that kind of stuff.
I've never had a problem with pits. And I used to own a boxer. I loved my boxer. That was the most awesome
fucking boxer's great.
Yeah. But
the only breed I don't like is poodles. And that's just because
I don't like little dogs, but
well, that's kind of what I was saying, the toy dog thing, where like, look, we've got to make them so they can't breathe, and isn't that fun?
Yeah, I'm a dog person. I like all dogs. I don't dislike any of them. I mean, I do think that dogs do have different temperaments, though. I mean,
come on.
Well, mine's, my labs are big enough that they do security too. You know what I mean? They keep people out of the yard, and black dogs especially seem to bother people, maybe because you can't see them coming when you're trying to get in somebody's yard or something. But
I had a chow once. The neighbor cut its head off.
Ouch. I had way back in the day, my dog. I had a neighbor that was like, used to bug me when your dogs were barking.
Yeah.
But the other night they were just having a cow, right? He goes, I went out to see what was going on. Somebody was trying to break in my garage. He says, so I ain't going to complain about when your dogs are barking anymore. I was like, all right, cool. Good for them. They did their job.
Yeah. Yeah.
They knew that person didn't belong in the yard, and they were barking at them. So
there's too many people that just get dogs and think they're all the fucking same. They just go, well, a lab is the same as a fucking Rottweiler, and they're both the same as a collie, and they're both the same as a Dalmatian, and it's like, no, they're all fucking different breeds for a reason. They don't just look.
Dogs are people. Dogs are people. Anybody that owns dogs know they're people. They got personalities and everything.
Yeah, I think you need to be educated on what dog you're going to try and interact with. Like, if you buy, like they're talking about in the chat, if you buy a Dalmatian for kids, you made a mistake because they're not good with kids.
Yeah.
I think that's why I bought a boxer, is because it was one of the best dogs for kids. Why did they do that? Because it was a big, scary dog. That's why they cut its head off. Wow. They tried to poison it first, and that didn't work. So they cut its head off and told me that they did it afterwards.
I think I'd murder them.
Wasn't a fun day.
No, I think I'd like, because I fell out with someone not too long ago, and so that dog I just had up here, they started putting through fucking like flavored silica. They put like gravy all over it instead of posting it through my fucking letterbox. So I went around kicking off, trying to kick the fucking door down, and the police got angry at me.
Yeah,
it's like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, Dogs don't matter.
Around here, they well, a lot of people will like just put antifreeze out because it'll just kill anything pretty much and it's like sweet tasting, and so they'll lap it up, and yeah, it's not cool. But I mean, I wouldn't have even had a dog if I would have known the neighbors were that kind of crazy. But they were new neighbors, and it was a whole big thing. It didn't just happen and everybody moved on. I'll put it that way. I
wouldn't be surprised.
But yeah, I've had and we have a real big cat problem here because in rural areas, people just drop off their animals in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And people pick up the dogs, but the cats are like, instead of a raccoon problem, we have cat problems.
It's the thing. I love cats, but
we don't eat dogs. Cats. No. I've never ate a dog.
I've never intentionally eaten a dog.
Yeah.
No, there was a Chinese chippy around here that put dog in it, and then they found out
that happened here too. That happened here too. Yeah.
But it's like I love cats, but they're fucking knobheads, and people shouldn't own cats because everybody's irresponsible with cats. People go, "I'll buy a cat and just let it outside," and I don't even just mean like I don't want it anymore. It's just, well, it's an outdoor cat, and it's like, oh, so we'll just kill all the voles, mice, and all small rodents, insects, and fucking birds that it could possibly get a hold of. But it's such a cute kitty. It doesn't matter that it's a fucking evil killing machine.
Yeah,
it wants to kill everything and has been domesticated none.
Well, my
biggest lie
dad,
that society's ever told itself that cats are fucking domesticated.
Yeah. My dad used to raise dogs for fighting them and stuff before I was born. But I mean, like I said, it was like a thing, not cool in any way, but it was just what was going on at the time, I guess. I don't know. Not right or anything, but he used to like, his thing was and he didn't do this. My dad never did anything wrong to any animal during my lifetime while he was around. He died when I was 11. But he had said that the way that they would train the dogs is feed them gunpowder and meat and then beat them with plastic wiffle ball bats and stuff to make them meaner than hell so they'd fight. Yeah. And yeah, that shit's awful. That's just...
As much in all my streams, whenever I talk about stuff that involves my mother, I give her all the shit in the world because she's one of the worst people that's ever existed. But this is one of the things she's really good on. She loves dogs, even though she's terrible at taking care of them. But she loves them, so she seeks out like the best. I say the best dogs, like the dogs that have been abused just the most. That's the only dogs that she buys.
Yeah. Like, I was actually going to say you don't own a cat; they own you. But
yeah. It only made me think of it because my mum's current dog is a Staffy pit bull thing, or I can't remember exactly what it is. I've not spoken to her a couple of years. That was used as a bait dog, so it was covered in bites and all just this stuff where it'd been ripped to shreds, and somehow it managed to live. And she spent thousands in keeping that dog alive.
Yeah,
it's like the only good thing she does in the world.
There's Mike in the chat. I was just talking to him.
What's up, Mike?
He was asking who the shaking fist is, and I said, that's Zach. He's on the stream right now. So
hi.
He noticed that you subbed to him earlier. So
yeah. Well, you sub to streams you enjoy, don't you? There you go. Bam.
Yeah. Oh, Mike has got the answers in atheism, so that's the place to go if you need the answers.
I have an approximation of answers. That's why I shake my fist.
Yeah, Zach has a channel. You should go sub, Mike. It's really good.
Actually, speaking of my channel, I have to go because I'm streaming in 20 minutes. So I have to get ready. I only realized that
I was going to wrap up anyway. So yeah.
All right, fair enough. I'll let you wrap up then.
Okay. Well, all right. I know that we kind of veered far off of the subject of the Pew Research statistics that we started with.
That's literally always my fault. I'm sorry.
No, I kind of, that was just starting. I was going to do that and then make an open panel anyway, so I don't care. But I'll let you guys, Dave, you want to tell where you're at and all that stuff, and then Zach, you can, and then I'll say bye, and that'll be it.
I'll go first then. Fuck it.
Okay.
Go ahead. Give me 1 second. I was getting Mike the link here.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
So I'm Shaken Fest. You can find me over at the Shaken Fest. I try to release videos every Wednesday, making fun of various people. My last video was a parody music video of Hadaway's "Don't Drown Me." So if you want a good old chuckle about Moses and a parody music video for me, you should go watch that. And I stream every Sunday, like in less than half an hour, where I make fun of either a lot of theists. I have people on like Joe and eventually Captive Desk, Dave, sorry, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Dave?
Yeah, I put the link in the private chat for Zach's channel if you want to post it for Mike there, Joe.
Oh.
I was asking. So
I don't know
the
that
link
I can from there, but let me try.
See it. Or if somebody out there, if Crystal's out there or something.
I got it.
Yeah, I'm Dave at the Captive Desk, and I cover all kinds of things. We try to have a good time, and I'm off and over with Mike at Answers in Atheism. We had a stream earlier, and I got up earlier to accommodate you, Joe. I said Mike wanted to stream at 2 o'clock, and I was like, oh, Joe's on 2 o'clock. I said, well, we'll do it before that. So we timed it, so we wrapped up right at 2 o'clock so we could come over here. And I'm off and over here, too, talking with Joe. Joe comes on my channel. We have a good time. And yeah, Zach and I have been talking about doing something too. So looking forward to doing that. And yeah, stop by the Captive Desk. And if you're into cryptids, I also do the Grassman Chronicles, where we talk a lot about cryptids, aliens, ghosts, and things that go bump in the night.
All right. Well, I'm going to go and say bye, but thanks to everybody that has watched today. If you're new to the channel, just like and subscribe. That would help out tremendously. Thanks to all my members going across the bottom of the screen there. And Dave makes this list. Thanks to all my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate helping out with things. And I've got some stuff coming over on Patreon for you guys pretty soon, too. That'll be pretty good. But let me see. Thanks, Dave. Peace out. Yep. Oh, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Teach you Kentuckian. I can do that.
Yeah, Mike was saying he needs some lessons in Kentuckian.
It's easy actually, but we'll talk about it later. I'm gonna let Zach get out of here. Let me find the outro thing. All right. Yeah. Thanks everybody. Have a great one. Bye.